Hey, welcome. We were just talking about VR and augmented reality. We'll probably get to that if you don't completely overwhelm us with Speedify questions today. But this is Speedify Live. I am Alex Gizes. This is Mike Kane.
Hey guys.
One of the senior developers or something. I don't know what your title is on Speedify. Our fantastic app that lets you combine multiple internet connections together so you can use Wi-Fi and cellular at the same time. In fact, you can see right now I have an Ethernet cable from my Mac running to my Comcast modem, and my Wi-Fi has joined a Starlink satellite dishes. Woo, we're in space here, guys. Let's see if this works. So I have an iPhone, and I tether it to the Mac. And probably need to unlock it or something. I would expect that in the next second or two, we should get an iPhone. Boop, boop, boop. But, now it appears. All right. Where were we? But we're here for you. We are completely live. You're live with the people who made Speedify, and we will answer any questions you have. So if you have technical support questions, or if you just want to say hi, it's our good friend G. Albert. Haven't heard from you in a while. Super exciting. Hope you're doing well. All right. Zach says, I've got to ask. I've heard you mention Speedify router in the past, but you weren't able to give any info. No, we're getting closer. In fact, Friday, we are internally spending a day on that. Yeah, our focus has been on feature we're planning to launch July 10th. See that? It's the exact date. I talked about this before. A lot of cool stuff, letting you use lots of cell phone cellular at the same time. And then after that, I think we're going to come back around to pay a lot more attention to the routers. Do we have a Discord? We do have a Discord. It's worth saying we consider the Discord a secondary channel. You really want customer support, email us at support@speedify.com. Join this live chat. The Discord is up. We are frequently on it, but it's much more casual. Please make it work on my MacBook M1.
Oh, yeah, we fully support the MacBook M1.
Yeah, he's running on the M1 all the time. I'm running on the Mac. That was, M1 right there.
Yeah,
we're native on the M1. Could you either tell us what sort of problems you're having, or send us an email at support@speedify.com.
Mm-hmm.
Can we create the router using Raspberry? Yes. Raspberry Pi, if you go to support.speedify.com and click on the Linux section, there are detailed instructions on how to turn a Raspberry Pi into a Speedify router. We got how to share Speedify, how to install on a Raspberry Pi, how to install on Linux, how to turn, how to have a Raspberry Pi share over Ethernet, how to have a Raspberry Pi share over Wi-Fi. Either one of those turns it into a router. There are some speed limits. Raspberry Pis have started having trouble. 400 or 700 megabits. The Raspberry Pi 4. Don't try this with a 3. The other thing sometimes, and any like tethered cell phones or LTE or USB Ethernets that you plug into those, it's got the 4 USB ports. We'll detect it. We'll use it. If you're sharing over Ethernet, you can make the Wi-Fi join another hotspot, and then it'll share that. The biggest problem people tend to run into Raspberry Pi is like the power consumption. That if you have 4 cell phones hanging off all 4 USB ports, and then they start deciding to try to charge themselves, you can have the Raspberry Pi run out of power and overheat, things like that. So depending on what you're doing, you might end up deciding you want to use a powered USB hub. How do we proceed if we need answers about issues with Speedify? Obvious choice. Post in the comments, just like you posted this question. Emailing support@speedify.com, particularly if your questions about payments or you don't think your credit card charges right. Don't ask it here. Roy says, thank you. Speedify Babs. WWDC 23. Let's dish about that. Yeah. I'll talk about it. I know that it's support. I was able to just try installing it off the App Store, Mac App Store.
If you have problems, submit logs to our support if you can too. We'll help you out.
All right. Sishong, I have a MacBook Pro M1 and a Mini M1 works fine. Yeah. It was just a couple months ago. We took a while to get fully M1 native, but we are fully M1 native. Is there a good channel in your Discord for sharing some of my successful live streaming using Speedify? Yeah, post it. I don't have that many channels. There aren't that many. It's active. People post stuff every day. Pop in. Yeah, you're there with good news. We'll be there. G. Albert. For our information, I'm in Ottawa visiting with my grandkids. Oh, congratulations. Tried to access my DirecTV account, but was denied access in Canada. Another VPN company tried to get me to switch, but I found the secret sauce. Speedify. Yeah, all right. All right, so yeah, a month from now I'm heading up to Ontario myself. Gonna go visit my uncle. Go see some plays in Stratford, Ontario. It's a pretty amazing place. If you're into plays. If you're not into plays, then you know.
Still Canada. It's fun, right?
Yeah. All right. RB dropping the Habitat channel. Yep. Yeah. All right. Renato says, so I'm trying to use Wi-Fi and 4G on my MacBook. Is not working at all. What's the 4G is the first question. On the Mac, there's that setting in the networks thing on the. Sometimes the adapters, like a tethered cell phone, it'll not use them.
Right.
You want to explain that? What they need to check or uncheck?
Right. So if you go into whatever adapter you're trying to use, let's just say a tethered iPhone, it's going to say disable unless needed. So you got to uncheck that so the system knows that you could use it at any time. Maybe we have a screenshot that we could show them. But yeah, it's nothing that Apple makes easy to access.
Yeah, by default, like when you tether an iPhone to a Mac, it sets it and there's a checkbox that checks or unchecks. I don't remember which one it is. That says don't use this if any other internet's working. And so if you're using Speedify, you want to switch that to let it use both at the same time, and we'll take over. Right? We understand that cellular is more expensive than the Wi-Fi, and so we'll mark it as secondary. And we will purposely use it less. And if the Wi-Fi is good enough, just use the Wi-Fi. But yeah, otherwise the Mac is trying to manage it and not doing nearly as good a job as we are. All right, Christopher Robin. All right. Can you confirm to me that on a Raspberry Pi 4 with built-in Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi dongle, it is possible to bond a Wi-Fi signal and an Ethernet into one stronger from the second Wi-Fi? Yes. I can confirm that. Yeah, so you get a USB Wi-Fi card, and I don't remember the commands offhand, but it is possible in Linux to have them each join different Wi-Fi hotspots, and then Speedify will bond them.
He's supporting them on different networks, though.
Right. So if they both join, so he's trying to. So if the Ethernet and the Wi-Fi are going to the same internet connection, then it limits the value, right? If your Ethernet cable will get cut, it'll instantly fail over the Wi-Fi and it'll save you from that. But if there's a 1 megabit internet connection, you make 2 connections to it, they still only have 1 megabit together. But if you're doing like I'm doing, which is entirely different, I've got a Starlink and I've got a Comcast, right? And that's what I'm doing here, right? I've got Ethernet to that. So yeah, that works. 4G for my Android device. So one, check that the Mac is recognizing the Android device. Recent Android devices like Pixel 7s are apparently fully supported on the Mac. I have a Pixel 4 and it's not. It's a combination of Android and drivers in the kernel. So if you have a device that isn't supported, generally upgrading to the latest version of Android surprisingly doesn't get you support because it doesn't update the kernel drivers. But if you get a device that came with Android 13, that's the number, then it usually does work. So just check. I mean, does it work? Does the Mac recognize it at all? In old versions of Mac OS, there were crazy tricks where you could You could download an open source driver to add support for Android. but Apple killed it. So yeah, if you're on any recent version of Mac OS, you can't, any instructions you find about download this driver to make Android work, they don't work anymore. Speedify works fine on my old and new M1 Macs and iPads. Yeah, we're totally Yeah, we supported the M1 on the iPad from day one. That wasn't a big deal. Can I pay for my subscription from Russia? I believe so. Yeah, I don't think there's any reason not. I love Speedify. Hey, we love you. I have in the past connected like 2 iPhones tethered, 1 data cable, and Wi-Fi to my MacBook Pro M1, and it was great. Even shared from the MacBook Pro to a unified Dream router with a data cable. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Christopher says your sport team seems not aware about this. Scrolling back up to see which thing. All right. Christoph Robbins. All right. Imagine someone from sport is watching this, and we'll get somebody to follow up with you.
Yes.
All right. Oh, wow. Mac and Android are compatible. Yes, and it's changes to Android. They figured out how to make changes to Android to get it to work with the Mac. It was not Apple making changes to the Mac to work with Android. All right. Frequently, my wife has challenges accessing financial institutions to Speedify on. Yeah, they turn it off and they're good to go. Yeah, we've been adding various financial institutions for this reason and giving them bypass options, but there are in fact so many. Yeah, still kind of thinking about if there's a better way to do this, but we added a bunch of popular banks and things for the bypass. When you turn it off, we on most platforms now suggest we like turn back on in an hour. So if it's just because you're doing one bank, it'll turn back on.
Definitely check if we have your institution listed in our bypass list, and make sure you check it on, because then you could access that institution with Speedify on all the time.
All right. Does YouTube TV work using Speedify outside the USA? Do you know? This is sort of an ever-changing
cat and mouse.
Cat and mouse.
Maybe somebody from our support who's watching can chime in.
All right. Apple Vision Pro. That seems to be what everyone's talking about. Let's talk about it. So the 3D virtual reality, augmented reality, they call it spatial computing.
Yes.
Right? They gotta make up their own name. Spatial computing. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
It really seemed like a marvel of technology for starting at $3,500. Everyone keeps saying it's $3,500, but Apple didn't say it was $3,500. They said it was starting at $3,500.
So, Alex, as you talk, maybe the name is what's throwing us off. It's the Vision Pro. Maybe before launch, they're going to come out with a regular version that's affordable for the modern person.
Yeah. All right. Shishong. I don't know if you've seen it. So Shishong's saying that he wants his Vision Pro now. Yeah. $3,500. That's a lot. I mean, I see all the technology packed into it. I mean, it's got the same processor as a MacBook, as well as the 2 screens and stuff. I mean, I guess I get that there is more than $2,000 worth of parts in there. It was $500. I'd have put my credit card in somewhere
Yeah.
already, right? Um,
So Shashan, are you going to drop the 3,500 or you just want it? I'm curious. Is it
Yeah.
a deterrent for anybody, or is it just Apple? Who cares? It's worth it.
all right. Oh, there we go. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Yeah. I am hearing that people think that the YouTube TV might be blocking our servers and that you might need to bypass it, in which case you'll have troubles outside the US. Um, all right. Yeah. I'm having trouble clicking on comments, and it might just be that I'm not seeing it. So if somebody else could do that for me. All right. Renato says, I prefer my Oculus Quest. Yeah. It's an Carmack was the chief technology officer at Meta, in charge of the technology for all the virtual reality stuff. And he actually, when he resigned, he said they needed a $299 thing. That none of this stuff would take off until it was $299 or less. And that expensive headsets were just a waste because not enough people would ever buy them for things to take off. Obviously, Apple took the exact opposite approach. They totally ignored him. I thought he made a lot of sense when he quit, but man, so much technology. All right, Steer says the HoloLens was a marvel of technology at its time.
Yeah, it was.
It was. Microsoft very briefly in Philadelphia set up this demo room.
I remember that.
And I went down there and I tried the HoloLens.
Mhm.
And it worked, but the thing was so huge and the screen was such a small part, there was no peripheral vision, so it wasn't I mean, they made a thing appear on the table, and if you looked at it, you saw it on the table, but if you turned your head, it disappeared.
They tried.
They tried. It was a marvel for the time.
Yeah.
But it wasn't ready, right? I mean, even if that thing was cheap. All right, Speedify Bab says it's more than VR. It's augmented reality, which does change things a lot. But yeah, that price thing kind of stung some. I still want some. Yeah, I love the dial to dial in the background to make it translucent. That you could make it translucent or transparent, so you could actually see what was going on around you, or you could dial it in and be in VR. You don't have choosing between augmented reality and virtual reality. It's just a matter of
so awesome.
Spin the little thing over your right eye, and whoosh, you're in augmented reality. Spin it the other way, whoo, you're in virtual reality. All right, tell us more about this bypass to URL list function. All right. Speedify. Who cares? Just kidding. Thank you, G. Albert. So we are now maintaining on our servers lists of websites that we know people want to bypass. And for each of those websites, we're keeping up to date with the URL of the website, what their IP addresses might be, things like that. If you're on Android, what app they'd be using. And then we send it just every couple days, your app pulls down a new list. So in fact, if there you could send an email to support@speedify.com, G. Albert. We'd be interested to know. No guarantees, but if you tell us what financial institutions you're having trouble with, we might be able to get them on the list so that they just bypass. The 2-hour battery bothered me. Yeah.
That's why they're always strapped into a battery pack.
But the strapped-in battery pack only gives you 2 hours.
Oh, it's so cringe.
And it sure didn't look like it could be hot swapped.
No.
Right? You pull that battery off, poof, it's off. So, I don't think there's a way to add another one, take this one off and put it on the charger. Right. Yeah, no, nobody's heard about the HoloLens recently. I think it's done.
Mm-hmm. It goes to show.
Not only do I want it now, mostly may just watch cartoons now.
No.
It's weird. So it's so antisocial, but the Disney Plus demo, or the Disney Plus app comes with backgrounds. So if you spin it to VR while watching Disney Plus, you're like on an asteroid, on the side of a volcano, watching the movie, right? So that there's a big movie screen watching what you're watching from Disney Plus, and then they ship it with all these different worlds from like Marvel and Star Wars, and you can like pick which world you're on watching the movie. That cracked me up, but it seemed pretty cool. All right. Shishang will drop
Nice.
3,500.
You got to give us your take when you get it then.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Hello from Germany. All right. We got another actual Speedify question here. Another question, please. When Speedify detects my two connections, I want to bond. Do I have to push click on something because it just says connected, not bonding to
Great
connections? It should just bond them. One thing, if if it thinks the connection is cellular, it'll default it to secondary, and secondary it won't use it unless it thinks the primary connections, like your Wi-Fi and Ethernet, are having trouble. And having trouble could be that you're downloading more than they can handle, and it could be that they're just straight up broken. And even on the speed stuff, by default, Speedify, like if your Wi-Fi is going more than 30 megabits, it won't bother turning on your cellular to use it. It assumes 30 megabits is probably good enough. So you can click on it on the cellular if you really want it to be used, and change the priority to always to primary.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be called always. So if you change it to primary, then that's telling it, don't worry about cost, just give me the best performance. It's fine to use this all the time. And you'll see it use a lot more cellular immediately. All right, here we go. I have an idea. What about a Speedify metaverse? Dual WAN is its strong feature. Yeah, what would that be? I think about that sometimes. What are we supposed to do in virtual reality? Also, the Fediverse. What are we supposed to do in the Fediverse?
As packets come in, you got to shoot them down.
We could set up some sort of social server,
Yeah.
but what would you do there?
Talk to us in VR with your Oculus.
Yeah. I assume, somehow the structure of the Fediverse, where different people run their own little social servers and hook them up to each other, that seems more like how VR should work than this, Facebook metaverse. Facebook builds this giant universe, right? I think you should be able to build a few rooms and tell your friends that they can connect their stuff to yours if they want, and if they don't want, they can stay off your weird server. All right. Yeah, it's not working. I can't click on comments. All right. Speedify Babs. Before you end today, we must know, Alex, did you download iOS 17? Yeah, so my phone popped up and said, iOS 17 developers available. Do you want to install it? And I said, oh, should I do this? And Mike said, no. So I asked Brian, and Brian said, no.
We've learned our lessons many times, Brian and I.
And Brian sarcastically added, yeah, like you want to put a beta on your watch. Where in fact, exactly what I was thinking was the reason I was thinking about installing iOS 17 is I wanted the beta for my watch. No. And to him, it was the example of the dumbest thing Alex could possibly do. I don't know my own name.
If it breaks,
so I did not do it. I did not do it. These guys pressured me out of it. I'm going to do it, but not the first beta.
Wait till the third.
Yes, that's probably it. The third beta. Yeah. I will fix. All right. Brian Purdell says, I'd be astonished if it dies immediately once you disconnect the battery. I assume it'll stay up for a few minutes to let you swap. That would be great, Brian. Wouldn't they have mentioned hot swappable batteries as a feature of the case? All right.
I'd be interested to know.
Hope you're right. Would we get legs in the Speedify metaverse?
If
No,
Zuckerberg does it.
everyone would have treads. You'd be tanks.
Who wants legs?
So, all right. My dream of building a giant robotic cyber dragon and riding around and being a dragon, well, seemed to me to be a ridiculous dream. But given those goggles, like,
Oh, man.
we're just a few years away from Alex being able to explain his dream out loud and people not breaking out laughing like that.
We can watch him do it. We don't.
Yeah. All right. One leg per internet connection you available.
Well, that's creepy.
Oh,
Okay.
Horrible.
You're gonna want to bond 2 connections. It's good.
So Kevin has 15 legs. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
All right. You know, I don't think the pool got organized. They talked about having a pool, but everyone just seemed so horrified at the thought of having to deal with Alex bricking his phone that I don't think anyone actually placed a bet.
We don't want that.
Transformers already did treads. Yeah, well, seemed doable, right? All right. Boop, boop, boop. We are at 10:30. All right. I hear there are some mailbag questions. So let's go to the mailbag, because otherwise I'm going to start ranting about Superman 2. All right. First mailbag question. Let's see it. I've been using Speedify and Connectify for a while, but noticed they've been taking up a lot of GPU. While both apps are idle, their CPU usage goes up to 40%, which is a problem because when I use Adobe Premiere, that takes up a lot of CPU. So these two apps are taking up that much CPU. I can't work in Premiere. I don't know why the app uses so much CPU while idle. Do you have any suggestion of what I can do? What? I don't know, actually. That does not sound normal at all.
Mm-mm.
You know, on some Raspberry Pis, our user interface that can use, 1% of your CPU on a fast Windows machine can end out, really slowing down a Raspberry Pi because, there are computers that are a lot of Windows machines are 20 times faster than Raspberry Pi. We should not be using much GPU. I think that is a classic. Please send logs. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously Windows, not a Raspberry Pi, because I don't think there's Premiere on the Raspberry Pi. All right. So let's talk about Superman 2 and the Mandela effect. I clearly remember Lois Lane shooting Superman, and that's how she shooting Clark Kent, and that's how she realizes when the bullet bounces off him that in fact, he's Superman. So my son and I rewatched it last night, and that's not what happens. He falls and his hand goes in a fire, and she sees he's not burned. I was completely freaking out how I remembered this wrong. And so I started Googling, and it turns out what I remember is a deleted scene.
That is a wild Mandela effect, slightly.
And so I guess I saw it at some point, and I just thought it was so much better than what they actually put in the movie, that in my memory, that is what happened. She shoots him with a blank, and instantly, and it's a piece of acting that I thought, was worthy of some sort of award. He goes from goofy Clark Kent. She pulls the trigger, the gun goes off. He straightens up and said, Lois, if you had been wrong, you would have just killed Clark Kent. And she's like, with a blank? Right? Superman's so powerful that he doesn't notice the difference when a bullet actually hits him or not. Right? Wow. He didn't notice the bullet didn't bounce off him. He just assumed it had, and he hadn't felt it. And he's like, you would have killed Clark Kent with a blank? And then he's like, But that's not what they put in the movie. They put in this goofy thing where Clark Kent trips and falls in the fire. Anyway. Something really strange going on with the comments here. I don't know what's going on. If somebody understands what's going on in the comments in the back here, it will show some comments for me to reply to. I'm seeing all the comments as being from me. All right. Does Speedify work together with Lyrics and without Restream? Because I saw your last week's test with Restream. Yeah. When I live stream, my normal setup is an iPhone with Lyrics on it and Speedify, and we absolutely then bond the Lyrics RTMP stream across all sorts of other things. So there you go. Yes. All right. Why are they running Connectify? So Connectify gives them the ability to turn the PC into a Wi-Fi hotspot, and devices that join that hotspot then get put on the Speedify VPN. I assume they have a reason for that. So you can do can't support like a Kindle. If you want to somehow bond a bunch of 4Gs for a Kindle to use, there's no way to plug a Kindle into a 4G. There's no way to run Speedify on a Kindle, but it could join a hotspot, and that hotspot could be running both Connectify and Speedify, and now it's on a bonded connection. But I don't know why this particular person was. I'm just saying there are good reasons like that to use Connectify Hotspot. Connectify Hotspot, sadly, it's our original app that only runs on Windows, which is, I guess, the clue that he wasn't on a Raspberry Pi or something. All right. I am not able to do live streaming in high definition quality. 3 Connect Android phone. And Speedify shows all 3 Android devices. It recognizes, you've got a row for each one, and you're now, I've got the Ethernet and the Starlink. So each one gets a row, and they're not grayed out; they're colored. Do you have that for your Android devices? In my laptop with vMix Soft. Yeah, the vMix people were telling me that it works great with vMix and that they really love it. It certainly sounds like it should work. Maybe send logs. This is send logs. I'll show this again. You go to the hamburger menu, the top left, boop. And then near the bottom, there is generate logs. If you click this on, Android or iOS, it'll immediately start an email to us. Otherwise, on other operating systems, it tends to create, a zip file somewhere, like on your desktop, and then email that to support@speedify.com, and we will take a look at what's going on. All right, we're coming. All right, Shishong. I am using Speedify and Connectify on a mini PC to set up a router. Seems to work fine. Yeah, I mean, the only problem, of course, is, Windows Update runs basically every week, forcing you to reboot. You have no internet while your router is rebooting with the latest Windows Update. But outside of that, works pretty good. Connectify Hotspot. Turns PC into a Wi-Fi router. Good day, Alex. I would like to know if you already have a server for Peru to make bonding better stability. I don't believe so. I think we have servers in Brazil. We have servers in Miami. South America is, there's a fiber optic cable that starts at Miami that rings all of South America. And a lot of people in various spots in South America discover that, Miami is closer to them than Brazil. It's closer to them than Colombia and things like that, because, very fast data centers on the same fiber optic cable. So yeah, we're always looking, but it is hard hosting in some of these places. a lot of the places that need Speedify the most because internet quality is so poor turns out to have poor internet quality even at the hosting providers. So putting a speed server there doesn't gain you nearly as much as you would hope. Because sometimes the servers have the same problems that you do. So sometimes popping out to somewhere like Miami, where, it's a real hub, right? Cables to South America, cables to Europe, cables to America, all just run right into Miami. Major internet hub. All right, what else? Starlink. Love, 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 love. Okay. Yeah, we've been experimenting a lot with Starlink. Great, thanks. Yeah, so we have our Twitch TV /Speedify Labs channel, where we're still continuing to experiment with Starlink. Real improvements. Like if the Starlinks are the most variable internet connections we have ever seen. So playing with it, 200 megabits, and then 5 minutes later it can be 1 megabit. So some real improvements came into Speedify to make it work better with Starlink. We think that actually these improvements turn out to be helpful in other real world situations. Like when you walk into an elevator and the doors close and suddenly your Wi-Fi speed goes from 200 megabits to 1 megabit. I think that happens to real people. And I think some of the improvements we made for Starlink, there are a lot of weird little scenarios that actual people who don't use Starlink hit all the time. And I think we made serious improvements that will help a lot. All right. I think we are here at the end. So thank you for following. If you liked this, follow us, like, subscribe, whatever. If you're on YouTube, there's that little bell you got to click to get notifications. Please follow. We're here. If you wandered onto this somehow, go get Speedify, speedify.com. You combine all your internet connections and get faster speeds. If I didn't answer your questions, shoot us an email at support@speedify.com. And I think that's it for today. Right?
That's great. Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
joining us. Thank you for everyone who watched, and especially everyone who asked questions. The show is nothing without you guys, quite literally. So, all right.
See you.
Thanks, guys. Good night. See you all online.